Welcome back to the Wizard Shop. We got this one in just recently, and today we're going to do another Q&A and see if you guys can figure out what is wrong with this Maxima right after this. So we just recently got this one in. It's a 2004 Nissan Maxima with a 3.5, which is really a fairly good motor. They don't have a whole lot of trouble. But this one's in for check engine light. Randomly the car would stall and completely shut down on him. At various random times it would lose power, it wouldn't accelerate really well, and other times it would work fine. The check engine light was on, like I said, so he dropped it off here and he was like, what's wrong with my car? What's going on with this thing? So I hooked up my handy dandy Autel scan tool to this to see what's going on, and there were codes for cam sensor, crank sensor type issues going on. So I researched the information, and there's a lot of issues with the sensors themselves. So based on what I just told you, that it's stalling on him, sometimes it has power, sometimes it doesn't. I'm going to give you guys 3 choices and then let you guys choose what is wrong with this car. Number 1, is it a bad cam sensor or both bad cam sensors? Number 2, is it a bad crank sensor? And number 3, is it a wiring or an ECM problem? I'll give you guys a few seconds to think about what you think's wrong with it, and then I'll give you the answer. Okay, so the answer to this problem, what's wrong with this car, is none of the above. None of it. It's a really weird issue on this car. So luckily I have Identifix. I researched this problem. I looked into what it could be, and there were obviously a lot of cam sensor, crank sensor problems, but there was a great deal of timing chain problems. So I'm going to let Michael work on this. As his time as a Mercedes tech, he's been through a lot of E350s, E550s with the timing chain issues. He's done timing chain after timing chain, lots of them. I figured this would definitely be a job right down his alley. Now, this car came in here and the customer thought, just like any of you guys would have thought, a couple $100 and I'll be back on the road. It's going to be $2,000. Now, this car is worth fixing. It's worth more than that, quite a bit more than that. And it's a nice car. So it's not one that you just junk it and say, I'm done. It's worth fixing. The customer realized that. He says, let's go ahead and get this thing right. I want it to be able to drive it and not tear up my engine. And just like you guys, I always assume it's something small. It's got to be something quick. I hope for the best that it's something cheap. Even though I make good money off the expensive repairs, I don't wish that on people. Unfortunately, that's what happened with this one. And thank goodness it's not an Audi, because this $2,000 job would be a $7,000 job. If you look in this picture above my hand here, you'll see a picture. We took the access cover off of a tensioner on this engine. Michael took a picture to show me what he found. And when I seen that, I knew it needs all new timing chains, everything. The tensioner is completely overextended to its max limit. And it's not even contacting the correct point on the tensioner guide rail. It's just completely off kilter, completely out of whack.
So Car Wizard, why was it giving all those sensor codes when it was a timing chain problem?
The computer's monitoring the cam sensor and the crank sensor, kind of a correlation issue. And it's seeing that it's asking for this or looking for this or that in the timing, and it's not matching up. So it's thinking, well, the performance of the cam sensor or the crank sensor is not correct. Something's wrong. The computer doesn't know that there's mechanical issues here. It doesn't have a way of knowing that. That's the best that it can tell you. You have to be a technician to figure out the rest. But once we've seen, like I showed you in the picture, I knew it's time for timing chains. And that's exactly what Michael's got going on here. Let's take a look at what he's got and show you guys what it looks like. So as you see, we have 2 carts full of parts. It's like major surgery, guys. Some of you guys might call up and want to estimate on timing chains, and oh, that's so high. I'm not going to have Michael pull all this stuff apart for $500. You're going to pay for it. Let's take a look at his progress so far and see what he's got going on the engine. So I've not heard a lot of timing chain issues with these engines, but apparently it is an issue. So Michael already has the intake off, the valve covers off, he has the lower oil pan off, and he's getting prepared to take the timing case off and access the primary and secondary timing chains. He's going to have to take these two caps off to get down to the tensioner for the secondary little timing chains. It's quite a big job. It really is. It's almost an engine teardown except for pulling off the heads and all that stuff. But so as you can see in this hole right here, where I'm tapping, that's the access hole that we use to look in there. And as you can see, the tensioner in there is fully extended, even beyond its maximum limit. It could theoretically break and damage the engine. That's when I told the customer that he really can't have this car back unless he wants to damage the engine. It literally could destroy his engine. So, like I said, he said, go ahead and do it. Let's get this done. Michael has a little bit left to go. He's got to get the timing case off and get down to the chains. We've got a kit that has all new guides, tensioners, chains, everything completely new. And this guy will be back in business. No more cam sensor codes, no more crank sensor codes. I really hate that it was that expensive for him, but at the same time, I'd like him to be able to enjoy his car and use it and get back and forth from point A to point B. And the only way he's going to safely do that is if we go through and do this major job.
Car Wizard, how much time would he have had if he had not done this repair?
It could have been weeks or months. Like I said, it was stalling on him. It was starting to have serious issues because the timing is so far off that the computer was like, whoa, something's wrong, and just shut it down. It may have been a week, it may have been a few months, and it could have heard the notorious rattle, the nasty rattle of a timing chain. And that's usually when you hear that sound, that's the sound of time for a new engine. And I'm glad that we caught it in time. I'm glad that we saw it and we're able to take care of this problem for him. And I'm also very thankful that I have Michael here. He's able to tackle this job, get it taken care of, and I can focus on running the shop and doing other things. So the next thing I want to talk about is some of the issues you can have with equipment when you buy sometimes cheaper equipment. And right now I'm going to show you a jack stand that Michael has holding up the engine. There's some good quality ones that I've had for a long time. They've proven to be very, very good. Let's take a look at it. You can see it's a light blue color down there. So that's holding up the engine right now, which is not a whole lot of weight, but if you use it to hold the entire vehicle up, that's where you can run into trouble. Apparently I've heard recently, I'm not bashing any names or going into shaming of companies, apparently Harbor Freight has been selling jack stands that have been collapsing, like crushing on people. If you buy some of the cheaper equipment at one of your favorite stores, test it out. Put it to its maximum capacity or use it and push on it. Check it out before you crawl under a car. I would hate to think some of my wonderful Car Wizard viewers get crushed under a car from some cheap jack stands. I really don't want to hear that. That would make me very sad. So I saw the jack stand sitting under there holding up the engine, and I knew, I'm going to tell you guys about that. I've heard that recently, and that's some news I'd like to pass along. For safety, I'd like to have you guys be safe. We try to be safe in the shop, and I'd like you guys to be safe as well. One thing to remember if you're using jack stands, this is a method that I practice. I will jack it up and put the vehicle on the jack stands, but I won't take the hydraulic jack away. I will still keep it under the car under some tension. So if the jack stands were to fail, you would at least have the hydraulic jack to keep you from getting crushed, at least not as bad, maybe not at all. Or vice versa, if a jack fails, and the jack stand can catch it. Don't rely on just the jack stands or just the jack. I've had a couple times in the shop when my guys are working on a car and they're just using the hydraulic jack only. And I'm like, no, 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 no. You get up on your feet and you go get jack stands under that car. We try to be safe in the shop, and I hope you guys are too at home. This one I happen to be using our BenPack mid-rise lift. It's perfect for this type of job because it's not going to be in the shop today and out the shop today. This is kind of a long job. So it's back here out of the way. Michael can work on it and get the job done, and we still have our main lifts open, ready to do quicker services and things of that nature. This lift that BenPack sent me is one of the ones to replace a prior mid-rise lift that I had. I would definitely recommend these if you're in the market. If you work on a lot of cars, but you're not really a professional as far as owning a complete shop and everything. This doesn't require installation about drilling holes into your concrete. You don't have to do a hard installation, as they call it. You can wheel this thing around wherever you want on your shop floor, and it should be concrete. And you can even move it out of the way when you don't need it. So it's a very, very handy lift system.
Car Wizard, didn't Hoovie's Apollo 911 live on one for like 3 months?
Yeah, that was the older model that I had. I used it quite extensively, just like we're doing here on this 3.5 Nissan. It's for cars that are going to be sitting for quite a while. So that's where we're at on this Nissan Maxima. I thought you guys would like to play another little game of Q&A and come to the realization, just like we did, that it was none of the above. It was something much more drastic. So we're going to get this thing taken care of for the customer and get it back on the road for him, make him a happy customer. So throughout the day, during the week in the shop, we use all kinds of crazy tools. Some of the tools that you guys may not have ever even heard of. If you want to see some of those tools, check out my Amazon affiliates page in the description below. I've got every tool that I use just about in the shop listed there for sale. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. We've got many, many more cool videos to come. Thanks for watching.